I lead us in?
If you can, yeah, that'd be great.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Hey Mama, I Have Questions. I copied that from you. Thank you very much for making this introduction last time, Megan. I am Hannah.
And I am Megan. I always feel like a radio host when we start doing something like that.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, then I get my radio host voice on and then I sound weird.
I like it.
So now we're back.
Now we're back. This is, just to let you guys know, this is the third episode that we are recording in one sitting. Because
which is the most we've ever done at one time, isn't it?
Which is the most we've ever done at one time, yes. And the last two that we did actually turned out longer than we thought, so we're like all in all here longer than we thought.
We're in hour 3 of this adventure.
Our zygomaticas are hurting from all the smiling.
Yeah. My TMJ is really doing great things for our life.
I'm glad Megan's throat at least is not struggling, because that was...
I've been sick this week, but my throat is killing it. And by killing it, I mean doing a great job.
Which is the reason we're doing 3 in one sitting, because we had to postpone.
Yeah, we had to cancel
the last time. So here we are. Just wanted to give you a heads up. We might have a little weird energy in this one, but we're powering through. Yeah, a little bit loopy.
A little loopy. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. Just keeping it loose. Wiggling around. Having a great time.
Yeah, apparently we might be dancing this episode too, so go over to YouTube.
Go check us out on YouTube if you want to see that. Or
I just noticed that I'm like totally blending with my couch. How did I not notice?
I noticed that before hour 2, but it didn't seem that relevant, so I did mention it. But yeah, you're totally just camouflaged into your couch.
I'm actually just a floating head.
But a beautiful floating head you are.
Thank you, dear.
Of course.
Even after what feels like 5 hours of doing this, that is good to know.
Yeah.
We had incidents too. Should we tell them? Like my power went off, and so we had like a long gap in there. Megan thought I might have been abducted.
Just seemed like the thing to text you to check if you had been abducted.
Thanks.
No problem.
Okay, let's jump in. This is nonsense. What am I doing? What are we talking about today, Megan?
We are talking about, so I am now in month 2 of outside the home daycare for our little tyke. Ooh, tyke is a weird word. Our little person. And so we wanted to talk about how that transition is going, and just the experience of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And I want to go into a little bit the process of like where he is and how we ended up there and what might happen in the future, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I started looking at daycares before our baby was born because I knew that I would have to keep working. So I knew we would need to send him daycare eventually. Was looking at a bunch of different places, mainly places in like close to where I work, so that because we weren't sure what Hunter's job was going to be in the long term or where that was going to be, but we knew that my job probably wouldn't change. So we were looking for places close to me so that we knew it could be a good commute. We also weren't sure we were going to be living totally. So again, my work was going to be the one consistent thing.
That's so smart.
Yeah. And there's a daycare really close to where I work. Like literally I could walk there on my lunch break and come back. So that was our like first choice because it's a good daycare and obviously very close to where I work.
Yeah.
So we were looking at that. We had blah, blah, blah. Then of course, March 2020, the month that will live in infamy.
Everything changed.
Everything changed. So we were kind of like, so we stopped looking at daycares didn't go into like what that would look like for, we didn't know what anything was going to be, right?
Yeah.
So we just sort of went with the flow on that. We ended up figuring out other in-home, slightly pandemia safe or care for our baby. Um, that also was a little less expensive than an out-of-home daycare at that point because of how we scheduled it. And so we made that work for a good long while.
And
Toward the end of, what was that?
and we're gonna have her on the podcast actually a little bit
Oh
later.
yeah, we are. Yeah, our nanny babysitter person is going to be on the podcast soon, I think, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, she's adorable and a baby herself, and I like her a lot. Um, she's anyway, so we had her for a while, and then Hunter's job is such that he's off in the summers, so he took care of the baby over the summer while I was working. So we were good for the summer, and then in we knew that Hunter was going to start work again, and we would need to find daycare. And at this point, we felt more comfortable sending him outside, and it also would make more sense financially at this point to send him somewhere else. So we were looking for daycares at the beginning of the summer, and but what I didn't realize about daycares, and I don't know if this is true other places, but it's definitely true here, is that you can't plan very far in advance.
What do you mean?
So I applied for our like first choice daycare in March to start him in August. And I don't think the way it's such a mystery, right? And I have only been able to gather what I've been able to piece together from, so my mom right now directs a daycare, and I've called different places and like asked some pointed questions, but it's hard to put together like how the wait list works and how the spots are doled out. So like I think if we had said starting him as soon as possible, we might have gotten one of those spots.
Oh.
But since I said we want to start him in August, we only started being on the list of spots in August.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Right. So we couldn't like save a spot or anything, which because of the supply and demand situation at a daycare makes sense, right? Like they're going to fill a spot. If they have a kid that wants to start in June, they're not going to hold that spot until August.
Right.
And not make income from that spot because the person next on the list doesn't want to start until August. They're going to give it to the next person that wants to start in June. So anyway, huge learning curve on that. And they also couldn't tell me like if they were going to have spots available because they know who's going to age out of a classroom, but they don't necessarily know if they're going to have someone else to fill that or who's going to leave unexpectedly, or, you know, like,
Yeah.
that's a whole thing. So when I called in the beginning of June, another daycare, and was like, do you have any space? We want to start in August. She was like, call me middle of July. And I could tell you. I was like,
Okay.
ah! So basically what ended up happening is we're on two different waiting lists for two different like business daycares.
Okay.
And through Nextdoor, where I was like panicking in the middle of August because we just needed somewhere to take him
Yeah.
because we were both going to be in full-time work and weren't going to be able to take care of him.
Yeah.
I was like, does anyone know someone that has a home daycare and is like good and reliable and send me their way, living, where I live, and tell me somewhere nearby, please. Somebody help me.
Help.
um, so luckily, this person commented on my post and was like, hey, I just started a home daycare. Here's my phone number. Give me a call. It was amazing. So I gave her a call. Um, we went and visited her house. She has this whole cute like setup with toys and a little play mat area, and she she was very nice. She gave us her resume, she gave us paperwork. It was more professional than I was expecting it to be, which was very encouraging. um and yeah, so we were like, well, we can be here for a little while, and then whenever the spot opens up somewhere else, we'll go to and she only has like 2 kids at her house right now. So she doesn't have very many, which for him is kind of a downside. But it's also good because he gets a lot of um, intentional attention, like
Yeah.
individual attention. So pros and cons. But yeah, it was definitely an experience. Finding a daycare was a process. And we're still on these other wait lists.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when I called in like September sometime, well, when I called in August about the place that I had applied for in March, they were like, well, it looks like there's an outside chance that we might have a spot or two opening in October, and you're second on the list. So if we have 2 spots, you could get a spot in October, but it doesn't seem likely. Like that was the response I got in August. I was like, okay, not counting on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And at the other one, we're eighth on the list, so seems even less
Okay.
likely. Um, yeah, so that was the other thing. Wait lists are a time, I guess, because everyone is now going back to work in person, is now
Yeah, that makes sense.
feeling a little more normal, but the daycares are still at reduced capacity
Mm-hmm.
and are still at reduced movement between groups.
Mm-hmm.
So like their staffing and numbers are still really low.
Right.
So um yeah, that was the whole getting there saga. And then actually doing it is it's a whole learning curve. We don't even have the like intense prep that you sometimes have with daycares, because we don't really have to label his stuff. We don't have to make him
Mm-hmm.
bottles ahead of time. We don't have to do a lot of the stuff that you have to do for daycare,
Mm-hmm.
um, because she's home run and there's only 2 of them there. But figuring out the balance of what to ask and what to send and what we can ask for and what information you exchange with the person, that has been my big question. I think all of the things I just listed were all related to that. Like, right,
Yeah.
what how much can I ask to know about his day, and um coming to terms with and getting comfortable with him having this whole life and
Mm.
day that doesn't involve me or us or even our home. Like,
Yeah.
that's a huge transition, and it's a big relinquishing of control.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and hi, Baba. Okay. Yeah, so hi, we're here with my baby nursing. Um, so that was a big relinquishing of control that felt weird, and I didn't know how to navigate it, and like how much do I let go and what are the important things. And because I didn't, there's a certain perception of like I didn't want to be that mom, which
Aw.
is an obnoxious thing to even think about myself and other people,
Yeah.
but is still there in my
Yeah, it's a
brain and
thing.
is real. And I didn't want to be too helicoptery. I didn't want to be too much.
Hmm.
Um, and I think there was a whole process of deconstructing my own judgment of other people, um, for the way that they communicated about their children,
Yeah.
which embarrassingly enough has been, part of my thought process before.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that was the biggest transition management part of sending him to daycare, because we ended up with a place that was not philosophically what I would have looked for.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, One of the things she was so proud of when we went and visited her was that she was going to do flashcards with them every day, starting at age 1, to teach them words.
Mm.
And it was very sweet. And she was so excited
Yeah.
about it. She's like, yeah, I did it with my kids and it was great. And going to do it with the kids in the daycare. And you'll be so amazed at what words he'll learn and blah, blah, blah. And it was such a well-intentioned hard sell, and it was just not at all what I was looking for.
Yeah.
um and Hunter said it really well when we came out of there. He was like, I think that that's a huge plus in this kind of situation, because we know that she's going to spend intentional time with him, you
Mm.
know
Yeah.
um where in some home daycare situations there's a lot of like, put him in front of the TV or give him a tablet, or and that's, I don't want to be judgy about that, but it's not what I would want for my kid. And so yeah, it was just a lot of letting go of little things, that, and seeing and being helped to see the, like the flashcard thing, seeing the effect of that was positive, that wasn't what she wanted to tell us the effect of that would be like, but it was still a positive effect of that activity. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that I'm articulating this well, but um
I gotcha. So I'll assume that everyone else did too.
okay, that's good. Probably. Yeah. So that was that. And then we'll see how the transition goes if and when we ever go to the bigger daycare with lots of kids and
Ooh, yeah.
a whole other set of challenges and letting go. Because now, I can text her and I know that I'll get a response, and I can ask for things to be done in a certain way. And if it's possible, she can do that because she's only got 2 kids there.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I don't do that a lot, but, I know that that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, in a place where they have lots of kids and their own, you know, practices and plans and all of that. that's less possible. I would imagine. So yeah, I don't know if this is interesting or cohesive, but that's been my experience in doing daycare and working. And I thought it was going to be really emotional because while he has been taken care of by somebody else for most of his life at this point, most of the time, he's always been at home and he's always been around and accessible. You got your foot? You good? Okay. And now he's like totally just living this life outside of our house.
Yeah.
That doesn't involve me at all. Um, but it actually wasn't that emotional, which is seems like on theme for me, but no, I don't say that as a bad thing.
Okay.
I think I just continue to expect to be more emotional about these transitions than I tend to be because of the story that's told about moms sending their kids to daycare and how emotional that is. Hi. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you like daycare? Yeah. You enjoy it? That's good. Mm-hmm. Good chat. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate the contribution, my love. Okay. Just fully talking with my boob in his mouth. You're not supposed to talk with your mouth full. That's rude. Okay. Okay. What do you see? Uh-huh. Oh, yep. You got it up in your toes. I got you. You got it out of your toes. Yeah. Y'all done? Okay, well, I think this is telling us it's time to go. Anything before we go?
I was gonna ask how he's liking it.
Oh, he is loving it. I mean, he's not super he's very flexible as a person. And so he was a little bit like didn't want me, so I drop him off and Hunter picks him up. Didn't want me to leave when he started. And I think he cried once or twice, but it wasn't like big tears, scream crying. I don't think. It wasn't when I was leaving. I don't know if any of that happened afterward, but I don't think so. Because again, usually when he's crying, when something else happens, he's pretty okay moving forward.
Yeah.
So that was for like a couple of weeks. And then eventually he wouldn't cry anymore. He would just sit, and then she has her son at home with her at the beginning of the morning, and then he goes to school. So he really loves him. He'll like,
Aww.
he loves it when he's there. He loves hanging out with them. So when I get there, I'll drop him off, and then he'll see the other kid, and like basically at this point he just walks away and leaves me. He's like, okay, see you later, peace out.
Cool.
And a couple times he hasn't wanted to come home with Hunter when he goes to pick him up. So I think he's really enjoying himself.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's such a wonderful sign that he is enjoying himself and that he does feel comfortable there. And
oh, good.
That's really encouraging and wonderful too.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Thanks for telling us.
Yeah. Thanks for making it through the many many stages and positions. I hope this is okay to edit. Okay.
Okay.
Here we are. Thanks.
We warned everyone in the beginning, so I think this is very fitting.
We did. That's true. This is on brand for this whole conversation. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everyone. And
Yeah.
talk to you again next week. Actually,
We'll talk to you next week.
I think next week will be an interview.
Ooh, exciting.
It'll be a surprise.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Okay, thanks, love.
Much love. Bye-bye.
Bye.